EarthBound is a game where you play as this little guy, who you may have seen before here, or maybe here, on an adventure where he has to save the world from aliens. Now, what people who aren't big fans of the game may not know is that he's actually not alone on his journey. He's joined by these 3 other little kids, and together the 4 of them round out each other's strengths and weaknesses and work together as a team. But after playing the game so many times, I decided I wanted to try doing it a little differently. I thought to myself, what if you could only play the game with 1 of the 4 party members? Would it still be fun? Would it even be possible? So I decided to create a ROM hack that completely redoes the game, so that you only play as 1 character that you choose at the beginning. Now, I decided to share this little project with the world by doing a bit of a speedrun challenge. This idea was inspired by this video that was made by famous Scooby-Doo creator Coley, who makes good content. Go check him out, by the way. I'll put a link to him in the description. Anyway, I think the common consensus would be that Jeff would be the most difficult character to play through the game with on his own. Jeff is the only character in this game who doesn't have access to PSI abilities. These are this game's equivalent of magic or energy-based moves. Instead, Jeff uniquely invents his own tools to use throughout the game. Unfortunately, these tools are more suited to playing a support role rather than fighting directly, so it makes it rather difficult for him to be of any use if he's on his own. With this in mind, I decided that it'd be an interesting idea to see how quickly I could complete the events of the first town in this game, Onett, if I only have Jeff, and his lack of PSI abilities and practically non-existent early game toolkit. Now, something you will notice in the video is the timer will sporadically jump up at points. This is because I'm editing together footage from this run. I'm not gonna show it all here, just in the interest of making this video a reasonable length and not making it super boring. If you, for some reason, have any concerns that I may be cheating on this speedrun category that doesn't even exist, I will post the full unedited run. I'll just link to it in the description of this video, so hopefully that quells any potential concerns. Finally, before we begin, I've been kidnapped, and I'm currently being held hostage by the New Age retro hippie at a ransom of $10,000. The mayor of Onett, B.H. Perkle, has agreed to contribute $1 toward the ransom for every new subscriber. Please subscribe today so that I may escape the evil clutches of the New Age retro hippie. We're gonna begin the challenge here in Ness's bedroom. Except it's not really gonna be Ness's bedroom, is it? It's going to belong to the character we select, which is going to be the timid genius, aka Jeff. You'll see the timer started counting up as soon as we selected him. So that means the challenge is officially on. We're gonna begin by going into our little sister's room and grabbing the cracked bat. Now, the cracked bat is actually gonna be useless to us, because it's only equipable by Ness, and as you can obviously see, we are not Ness. We'll still be able to sell it at the shop for money though, so there's at least some use to grabbing it. Now, you can play the first couple minutes or so of this game completely normally, but something important that you should really do is grab your dog. Now, something you might not know is that recruiting your dog to join you for this first stretch of the game is actually completely optional. You don't need to do it to progress. But as you're gonna see, it's gonna be a very good idea to have him present. Now, the smartest thing we can do right now is avoid enemies, and we can accomplish that with this snake right here by employing the stutter step. Every enemy in the game is assigned its own pattern of movement, and for the case of the snakes, they can only move when your character moves. Now, normally the snakes can outrun your character, but it's possible to trick them. You see, the snakes do not catch very small movements, so by moving in very short, rapid bursts, you're actually able to move without the snakes chasing you. So by doing this so-called stutter stepping, we can get past the snake safely. Now, we won't be as lucky when it comes to this runaway dog right here, who does not have the snake's pattern of movement. And for him, you're going to see why we needed to grab a dog of our own for this fight. You see him do 7 HP of damage right there, and our own character didn't hit that turn, but when he does hit, only does 1 HP of damage. Now, something that we could try to do is just run away from this encounter. That would just end it, and we don't really need the experience from the fight. But the formula for determining a successful runaway in this game is based on your character's speed stat. And at this low of a level, with Jeff's 2 speed, that's very unlikely to work. So it's better to fight our way out. Now, something else we could have done is just tried to avoid the encounter altogether by running back and despawning the enemy, but I didn't think to do that this time, which is why we ended up fighting that dog. Now, after encountering a beetle from the future, fighting off an alien sent to kill you, then holding a quick funeral for said beetle, your top priority should be to arm yourself. Now, the first thing you should do is go to the secret tree house and grab the Mr. Baseball Cap. This item will raise your defense from a measly 2 to a solid 8. 8 is much better than 2, as you probably know. And then the next thing you do is go to the drugstore. Here you can just pull all of your money out of the ATM, sell all of the junk in your inventory, and there you'll have enough money to buy everything you really can at this point to arm yourself, which unfortunately for Jeff isn't much. I could probably go for a while on the weird nuances of the combat system in EarthBound, but I think I'll save that entire topic for another day. For now, I'll go over a couple steps of the basic damage formula and explain why we're about to be facing a pretty big problem. So in total, there are 5 steps that the game goes through when determining the success of a basic attack, and I'm going to go through 2 of them. Starting with the miss step, this is how often an attack is going to miss. Every weapon in the game has an internal value that could go anywhere from 0 to 16, and this determines the rate out of 16 at which the weapon just misses on its own. At this point in the game, the only equipable weapons available are baseball bats and the yo-yo. And as I've already went over, Ness is the only character that's able to actually equip baseball bats, which means Jeff is stuck using the yo-yo. And the yo-yo has a miss value of 3. This means that the yo-yo on its own will miss roughly every 3 out of 16 attacks, which translates to about an 82% success rate. Now, to put this into context, there's nothing else at this stage in the game that Jeff can really do consistently in battles. The only option he really has are basic attacks, so this means that pretty much every turn, there's about a 20% chance that you'll be doing nothing. Now, this would usually be okay if it were tied to a strong attack, like there has to be some sort of risk-reward system for using a powerful move. But this is Jeff's only attack, and he has a rather low offense stat. So on the turns where he is hitting, he's not really accomplishing much, and then if you're unlucky, you just won't be accomplishing anything at all. And the worst part is, we're not even done with the chance of missing an attack yet, because there's also the dodge step. The formula you see on the screen here are the odds an enemy has of dodging your attack, and this is independent of you missing your attack. What the formula basically boils down to is, if the enemy is anywhere above half as fast as you are, there's an additional chance that your attack just won't work against it. And this early in the game, with Jeff being such low level, and him just naturally being rather slow, most enemies are going to be significantly faster than you, and the faster an enemy is relative to you, the higher the odds are that they'll be able to dodge your attack. So this factor, combined with the internal miss value of the yo-yo, plus my uniquely fun bad luck, is going to lead to an interesting time you'll come to see. So after we've geared up and bought out the entire stock of hamburgers from the nearest McDonald's, the next step is to grind out as much experience as we can from the local hooligans. What you see on the screen now is a demonstration of what your weapon not working 20% of the time looks like. You see me missing a lot, and you may not hear it, but at this time I was getting quite frustrated and did not really want to be doing this anymore. But I persisted for you, dear viewer. So if you could leave a like now, as a token of appreciation for the pain and suffering I went through for you, I would be very happy. Something interesting about the leveling system to this game is that you tend to get higher stat increases every 4 levels. For whatever reason, the developers decided to tweak the leveling formula so that on any level that's divisible by 4, the game is biased to handing out higher stat increases. Now, I don't mind it, because it's fun and rather satisfying to see the numbers jump up by a large amount every once in a while, but this was the reason I decided to try to get to level 8 before fighting the first real boss. So after a lot of missing attacks, a lot of dying, and enough level ups, finally I hit level 8 and decided it was time to take on Frank. Now, getting to level 8 gave Jeff just enough of an HP boost to be able to withstand Frank's powerful attacks, and just enough of an offense boost to be able to defeat him within a few of his own attacks. Now, something that I haven't gotten into yet that's going to be relevant quite soon are the characters' starting inventories. Every character in the game, as soon as you recruit them to your party, already starts with something in their inventory. Paula, for example, starts with a teddy bear and a bread roll. I decided when developing this ROM hack to preserve the starting inventories of every character. Now, why this is important here is that Jeff starts with a big bottle rocket in his inventory. This, at this early stage in the game, is practically a nuke. It's a one-use item that deals so much damage that at this point in the game, it will one-shot any one enemy. I decided that the most opportune place to use this item would be on the Titanic Ant, which is the first Sanctuary Guardian. This is a boss enemy with by far the highest stats out of anything in Onett, and we would have no hope of defeating him, barring an inconveniently long grinding session. Because we're planning on using our one-use nuke on the Titanic Ant, it's going to be a good idea, once we reach the dungeon that leads up to him, to try to avoid encounters. Now, all of the enemies in this dungeon have a movement pattern, just like that snake at the beginning of the game. So we're going to be employing some stutter stepping to get around the enemies when we can, and if we have to, do a bit of fighting. And it's all going to culminate in the easiest boss fight. We just go to the Titanic Ant, we use the big bottle rocket, and we defeat him. Now, there's one last thing we're going to have to do before we leave Onett, and it's by far the most tedious task. We need to defeat the entire Onett police force. This is a boss rush where we have to fight 5 enemies, all consecutively with no breaks, and if at any point we die, we have to restart from the beginning. This is going to be pretty rough. The police officers have pretty strong attacks, and with our own attack being quite unreliable with how prone it is to missing, the only thing we'll be able to do is grind up to a higher level. With the fact that every 4 levels gives you a higher stat increase in mind, I decided to go all the way up to level 16 for this. Right now you're witnessing a very long, very tedious, very sped up grind session, where I fought the enemies in the dungeon where the Titanic Ant resided, all the way up until I hit level 16. Now, the reason I waited to do this until after I defeated the Titanic Ant is because anytime you defeat a Sanctuary Guardian, all of the enemies that live in the dungeon where that Sanctuary Guardian resided will start to run away from you. And it's a lot easier to strike enemies from behind if they're running away. And anytime you start a battle hitting an enemy from behind, you get an advantage in the fight. Anyway, after doing this until I hit level 16, I finally decided that I was strong enough to take on an entire police force. So I left the cave that I'd been living in for a while, loaded up on a few more hamburgers, and made my way down to the police station. Now it's finally time to start this boss rush that I've been grinding up so long for. Starting with cop number 1, I start with my only option, an attack, and of course I miss. I get hit with a crushing chop for 22 damage, I attack again, and I miss again. The cop attacks, I attack, and I miss for a 3rd time. I'm really questioning my life choices now. I attack again, fortunately this time I land. I attack yet another time, and I land a 2nd attack. Now I'm at pretty low health, and I have to break into my precious hamburger supply. The cop attacks again, I land one more attack, and fortunately we're finally done with this first battle. To my surprise, I'm lucky enough to find a hamburger on the dead body of this cop, which I'll gladly take. Now we go into cop number 2, and again, I open with my only option, a basic attack, and this time I actually land my first attack. I land a 2nd attack, which really surprises me. I get hit again, and I decide to use one of my hamburgers here. I land a 3rd attack, and this is enough to defeat the cop. And now we are down 2 cops. On to cop number 3. He calls me a fat boy, and I take great offense to this. I attack, and I land it. He hits me with a crushing chop. I attack again, and I land a 2nd attack. The cop attacks again, and this is where I decide to eat another hamburger. The cop attacks yet again, I attack yet again, and I defeat the cop who insulted me. Now I'm more than halfway done with this, on to cop number 4. I attack, and I land my attack. The cop retaliates with a basic attack. I land yet another attack, which surprised me. I decide to use one of my hamburgers here. The cop misses an attack, which is very good for me. And because I used a hamburger on the previous turn, I can go into the final cop battle at full health, which is very good for me. This last guy here decides to just run off and leave me to Captain Strong, the police chief in this town. This was sort of worrying to me. He has some strong attacks. Fortunately, he was just on guard that first turn. That's basically the best thing that we can hope for him to do. The grapple and submission hold is a powerful attack. He's on guard again, so I'm just gonna keep attacking while he's on guard. He comes out swinging, which does about 20 damage, so here I decide to use one of my hamburgers. This heals me up a decent amount, and I can use an attack again. This hits him for decent damage. He comes out swinging again. I land yet another attack. I decide to heal up here, which is a good idea because he hit me with his grapple and submission hold. I attack yet again, and seeing another grapple and submission hold do about 40 damage was worrying to me because it put me at very low health. But fortunately, one more attack was just enough to defeat the last of the Onett police force. From here on out, it's just a straight shot to the exit of Onett on the far south end of town. I'm gonna cut the timer as soon as I leave the area, and it looks like it took me about an hour and 37 minutes to escape Onett using only Jeff. That's gonna be it for this video. If you made it all the way to the end, thanks so much for watching. If you have any more ideas for EarthBound related challenges you'd like me to do, maybe using this ROM hack that I've made, maybe just in the vanilla game, feel free to let me know. I'll leave a link to the patch for this ROM hack that I made in the description of this video. And that is gonna be it from me. You have a great day. Hope to see you next time.